Hi guys, do you have a friend? I have friends. I have lots of friends. Do you do things with your friends? I do too. Isn't that great? Anyway, I'm going to read a couple stories out of one book called Frog and Toad Are Friends by Arnold Lobel. It might take us a couple days to get everything all read and put together, but I think you'll like it. And for some reason, you can always find yourselves in these books. So think of your friends while I read them and see which one you are. Are you frog or are you toad? The first book is called Spring. Hydrate. I may need to take sips in and out because it's a lot. Spring. Frog ran up the path to Toad's house. He knocked on the door, but there was no answer. Toad! Toad! Shouted Frog. Wake up! It's spring! Blah! Said a voice from inside the house. Toad! Toad! The sun is shining. The snow is melting. Wake up! I am not here, said the voice. Toad went into the house. Frog went into the house. All the shutters were closed. Toad, where are you? Called Frog. Go away, said the voice in the corner. Toad was lying in bed. He pulled the covers up over his head. You're coming outside. Frog pushed Toad out of the bed. He pushed him out of the house to the front porch. Toad blinked at the bright sun. Help! Cried Toad. I cannot see anything. Don't be silly, said Frog. What you see is a clear, warm light of April, which means we can begin a whole new year together, Toad. Think about it, said Frog. We can skip to the meadows, we can run through the woods, we can swim in the river, and in the evenings we can sit right here on your front porch and count the stars. You count them, Frog, said Toad. I will be too tired. I am going back to bed. And Toad went back into his house, and he got back into bed and pulled the covers over his head again. But Toad, cried Frog, you will miss all the fun. Listen, Frog, said Toad. How long have I been asleep? You've been asleep since November, said Frog. Well then, a little bit more sleep won't hurt me. Come back and wake me up when it's past May. Good night, Frog. But Toad, said Frog, I will be lonely until then. Toad didn't answer. He had fallen asleep. Frog looked at Toad's calendar. The November page was still up. Frog tore off the November page. He tore off the December page. He tore off the January page, and the February page, and the March page, and then he came to the April page, and he tore that off too. Then Frog ran back to Toad's bed. Toad! Toad, wake up! It's May now. What? Asked Toad. How can it be May so soon? Yes, said Frog. Look at your calendar. Toad looked at the calendar. The May page was up. Why, it is May, said Toad. As he crawled out of his bed, he and Frog ran outside to see the world was looking like spring. And that's the end of that story. Let's work on the next one. The next story, ironically, is called The Story. One day in summer, Frog wasn't feeling well. Toad said, Frog, you look quite green. But I always look green, said Frog. I'm a frog. Today you look very green, even for a frog. said Toad. Get into my bed and rest. And Toad made Frog a cup of hot tea. Frog drank the tea and he said, will you tell me a story while I'm resting? All right, said Toad. Let me think of a story to tell you. Toad thought, and he thought, but he could not think of a story for Frog. I will go to my front porch and walk up and down, said Toad. Perhaps a story will come to me. And Toad walked up and down the porch for a long time, but he could not think of a story for Frog. Then Toad went into the house and stood on his head. Why are you standing on your head? Asked Frog. I hope if I stand on my head, it'll help me think of a story, said Toad. And Toad stood on his head for a long time, but he couldn't think of a story to tell Frog. Then Toad poured a glass of water on his head. Why are you pouring a glass of water on your head? Asked Frog. I hope if I pour a glass of water on my head, it'll help me think of a story, said Toad. And Toad poured many glasses of water on his head, but he could not think of a story to tell Frog. Then Toad began to bang his head on the wall. Stop! Stop! Why are you banging your head on the wall? Asked Frog. I hope if I bang my head on the wall hard enough, it'll make me think of a story, said Toad. I'm feeling much better, Toad, said Frog. I don't think I need a story anymore. Then you get out of bed and let me into it, because now I feel terrible, said Toad. Frog said, would you like me to tell you a story, Toad? Yes, said Toad, if you know one. Once upon a time, said Frog, there were two good friends, a frog and a toad. Frog wasn't feeling very well, so he asked his friend to tell him a story. But Toad couldn't think of a story, so he walked up and down the porch, and he still couldn't think of a story. He stood on his head. He still couldn't think of a story. He poured water on his head. He still couldn't think of a story. He banged his head against the wall, but he still could not think of a story. Then Toad didn't feel well, so Frog was feeling better. So Toad got into bed, Frog got up, and he told him a story. The end. How was that, Toad? Said Frog. But Toad didn't answer. He had fallen asleep. And that's the end of that story. Our story today is called The Swim. They're gonna go swimming. So much fun. Toad and Frog went down to the river. What a day for a swim, said Frog. Yes, said Toad. I will go behind those rocks and change into my bathing suit. I don't wear a bathing suit, said Frog. Well, I do, said Toad. After I put my bathing suit on, you must not look at me until I get into the water. That's weird and cryptic. Why not? Asked Frog. Because I look funny in my bathing suit. That is why, said Toad. Frog closed his eyes as Toad went behind the rocks. Toad was wearing his bathing suits. Don't peek! Frog and Toad jumped into the water, and they swam all afternoon. Frog swam fast and made big splashes. Toad swam slower and made smaller splashes. A turtle came along the riverbank. Frog, tell that turtle to go away, said Toad. I do not want him to see my bathing suit when I come out of the river. Frog swam over to the turtle. Mr. Turtle, you must go away. Why should I? Said the turtle. Because Toad thinks that he looks funny in his bathing suits and he doesn't want you to see him, said Frog. This is gonna cause a lot of trouble. Some lizards who were sitting nearby heard that and said, does Toad really look funny in his bathing suit? They asked. A snake crawled through the grass. Let me start this page over. Some lizards were sitting nearby and they heard that. Does Toad really look funny in his bathing suit? They asked. A snake crawled out of the grass. If Toad looks funny in his bathing suit, said Snake, then I, for one, want to see him. We want to see him too, said two dragonflies. Me too, said a field mouse. I haven't seen any funny in a long time. Uh-oh, this caused more issues. Frog swam back to Toad. I am sorry, Toad, but everybody wants to see how you look. Then I will stay right here until they go away, said Toad. The turtle, the lizards, the snakes, the dragonflies, and the field mouse all sat on the riverbank. They waited for Toad to come out of the water. Please, cried Frog, please go away. But nobody went away. Toad was getting colder and colder, and he was beginning to shiver and sneeze. I will have to come out of the water, said Toad. I am catching a cold. Toad climbed out of the water. Water dripped off his bathing suit and ran onto his feet. The turtle laughed. The lizards laughed. The snake laughed. Even the field mouse laughed. And Frog laughed too. What are you laughing at, Frog? Said Toad. I'm laughing at you, Toad, said Frog, because you do look funny in your bathing suit. Of course I do, said Toad, and he picked up his clothes and walked home. And that's the end of that story. Let's read the letter. Toad was sitting on his front porch, and Frog came along. What's the matter, Toad? You look sad. Yes, said Toad. This is my sad time of the day. This is when I wait for the mail, and it makes me unhappy. Why is that? Asked Frog. Because I never get any mail, said Toad. Not ever? Said Frog. Not ever, said Toad. No one has sent me a letter. Every day my mailbox is empty. That's why waiting for the mail is a sad time for me. Frog and Toad sat on the porch feeling sad together. Then Frog said, Well, I have to go home now, Toad. There's something I must do. And Frog hurried home. He found a pencil. He found a piece of paper. He wrote on the paper, and he put it in an envelope. On the envelope, he wrote, A letter for Toad. And he ran out of his house, and he saw a snail that he knew. Snail, Snail, would you take this letter to Toad's house for me and put it in his mailbox? Sure, said Snail, right away. Frog ran back to Toad's house. Toad was in bed taking a nap. Toad, said Frog, I think you should get up and wait for the mail somewhere. No, said Toad. I'm tired of waiting for the mail. Frog looked out the window at Toad's mailbox. The snail wasn't there yet. Toad, said Frog, you never know. Someone might send you a letter. No, said Toad. I don't think anyone will ever send me a letter. This is so sad. Have you ever had friends that were so discouraged that no matter what you tried to do, it just made them worse? I'm so sad for this. Frog looked out the window. Snail wasn't there yet. But Toad, said Frog, someone may send you a letter today. Don't be silly, said Toad. No one has ever sent me a letter before, and nobody will send me a letter today. Frog looked out the window. The snail still wasn't there. Frog, why do you keep looking out the window, said Toad. Because now I'm waiting for the mail, said Frog. There will not be any, said Toad. Oh, yes, there will be, said Frog, because I have sent you a letter. You have? Said Toad. What did you write in the letter? I wrote, Dear Toad, I am so glad that you are my best friend. Your best friend, Frog. Oh, said Toad. That makes a very good letter. Then Frog and Toad went out to the front porch to wait for the mail, and they sat there feeling happy together. Frog and Toad waited a long time. 4 days later, the snail finally got to Toad's house and gave him the letter from Frog. And Toad was very pleased with it. The end. So when it comes to friends, which friend are you? Are you Frog, the one that's always trying to get Toad to do stuff and Toad really doesn't want to do it? Or are you Toad that's more, I'd rather stay here, stay in my sadness, and just try to figure out things. Think it over. I love you guys.